trust myself to get through the emotional
I just
part
lift it up towards your face.
Oh, can you not hear me? How's this?
Bravo.
I did prepare something because I was afraid to cry if I ad-libbed. When I met Mark 21 years ago, it didn't take me long to figure out that my new friend was not tentative or what some might call wishy-washy. Mark knew exactly how he felt about things, and he shared his worldview with his signature hilarity and hyperbole. Before then, I didn't know that the New Jersey Turnpike was literally the most offensive highway in the country. Or that it is literally impossible to find a decent corn muffin on that excruciating stretch of Route 80 in Pennsylvania. Or that those Snyder's pretzel nuggets were way crunchier than regular pretzels. He was literally never buying regular pretzels again. It's not that we didn't discuss more serious or weighty topics, but I loved Mark's quirky observations about the most mundane things. Every day was like our own personal episode of Seinfeld. Mark and I were simpatico in many ways. We enrolled in law school to earn our degrees and practice the profession, a means to an end. A lot of the other first-year students were busy taking themselves very seriously, carrying briefcases, forming study groups, kissing up to professors, and exhibiting ego they had scarcely earned the right to boast. We just couldn't relate. We stuck together, determined not to get swept up in the hoopla. When a pompous fellow student would blather on about his superior study habits or her prestigious summer internship, I would politely but grudgingly listen, and Mark would rescue us from these situations. He wasn't at all bashful to disengage from a conversation that wasn't interesting or useful. He often told me I was too nice, and I learned from him that politeness must have its limits. When I recall those years, I think mostly of the laughter and how boring life might have been without my daily dose of levity courtesy of Mark. He promised that he would never leave me Elaine the ashamed, and he didn't. We were inseparable. So much so that when I bumped into one of our former professors a few years ago, he asked me how my husband Mark was doing. There was a brief period of time that we were out of touch, and when we reconnected by phone, Mark excitedly told me that there was someone special in his life, and that person's name was Paul. He immediately followed with, "If you have any questions, ask me anything." I told Mark honestly that my only question was, "Are you happy?" But really it was a question that didn't need to be asked. Not only because he sounded so genuinely happy, but because I knew Mark had figured out at a young age what most people learn much later, that life is too short to expend energy on things or people you don't love. He was an early adopter of the well-known organizational advice to discard anything that isn't beautiful or functional. And he applied this to every aspect of his life. I knew Mark, and I knew settling was not a word in his vocabulary. I trusted that he had indeed met his beautiful, functional match. Fast forward to meeting Paul and discovering firsthand why Mark loved him. Paul wasn't someone Mark's friends would politely tolerate, the way we all sometimes have to do when our circle grows to include people we wouldn't have chosen. No. Paul was someone to embrace. Someone each of us would eagerly choose as our own friend had Mark not brought him into our lives. People usually think of a wedding as the beginning of a couple's life together. Those of us who've had the privilege of sharing in Mark and Paul's lives know that while today is the beginning of a new chapter, it is also, and and perhaps more importantly, a culmination of 14 years of living the vows they exchanged today. They've lived those promises, supporting each other in all manner of adventure. The good stuff, the tough stuff, all of it. So today, Mark and Paul, we celebrate the years of commitment that led you to this wedding day, and all the years of sweet togetherness that lie ahead.